Like high school, our niche has a little bit of drama. There's people that pick on each other, there's rumors that go around, but sometimes there's good rumors that you really can talk about and discuss and just have a, fun discussion between each other. And then there's some really bad rumors which should never be talked about, hybrid, Nikon D850. And I wanted to talk about some because pretty much at this time of year, not the right one, Fuji always comes out with something like the X100F last year, and then Panasonic has something as well that might trigger some people. And Panasonic has been a pretty interesting cat in regards to owning the Micro Four Thirds market, especially for video, with the GH5 and the GH4. Now, they might tick off some people with some things we've been hearing about something called the GH5S, in which is supposed to be a better low light version, more stills concentrated, better than the G9 version of the G5, and G9 is this G5S. And the problem with this, if this really happens, and that's why I wanted to create a discussion about this, is they'll fall into what the Sony effect was back with the A6300 and the A6500 on how they... That was the EPS Guide package just came from B&H. What will it be? See in a future video very shortly. Panasonic does this GH5S thing. It's going to alienate people like they did with like what Sony did with the A6300, and then within a few months they released the A6500. And I was actually an A6300 user at the time. I owned it. I was a Sony user for a little while, and I was very annoyed and kind of peeved that Sony would do something like that. And they made a lot of good improvements on it, but it was just like, are you kidding me? It hasn't even been a year. Like, what are you doing? And that's my worry what Panasonic is doing with this new low light beast that they're doing, that they're not saying if it's going to be Micro Four Thirds or a crop sensor or something, but Panasonic wants to create a low light beast of the GH5, and that's going to have improved video and expanded 4K. Now, they already do 4K at 60 frames per second. The autofocusing of the GH5 was very, very controversial. So what are they going to do here? Go 4K 120 frames per second? I don't know if that's needed or if that's really precedent for anything, but they do need to fix the focusing for that, and it's a lot of fine-tuning you have to do. It really wasn't user-friendly. A lot of the things that they're saying are the different ergonomics. It's going to be a beefier grip. You got this big, fat, old red button up top that you can use to record, and essentially go from there. And what you're going to see is that this is going to ship either late February or March of 2018. Estimated price, I think they have around $2,500 United States. So it's rather interesting, but it's more expensive than anything they've put out. Now, my guess is obviously this is going to be Micro Four Thirds, and I think that Panasonic really needs to start, either stay what they're doing because they're doing very well within that market, but they got to stop all this oversaturation of their own gear. They're really going to push people around. And there's no need for this. To me, there was no need for the G9 that's coming out either. But if they wanted to do something like this G9 or this GH5S or whatever, they didn't have to do the G9. You know, they could have waited until this time or February, March of next year and have done that there. So I don't know. The G9 is going to be too recent. I think that starts shipping in January, I believe. But I want to hear your thoughts of this GH5S, this new low light version, more stills concentrated of the GH5. What the hell's the G9 then? And Fuji has a lot of news, confirmed rumors coming out of one of the, probably it's going to be a very, very popular for a lot of Fuji users. I'm an X Pro 2 user, I own it. And I want some of these things that this new camera that they're going to have pretty much, when is this going to be? February of 2018, most likely, once everything gets confirmed. And I got to cover a couple things as well. But this is the first in-body image stabilized sensor in the Fuji X-H1. Now, we've been hearing about leaks for this for the past couple months. We saw that this was registered with the in-body image stabilization, you know, months ago as well, but we weren't sure if this was going to be like some kind of like the XT3, XT2S or something like that. But we have word that it's going to be the XH1, which I'm sure you've heard about. Once again, the first in-body image stabilized sensor within the Fuji line, and I think that's going to be huge. It will be crop sensor. I hope Fuji goes full frame one day, but they're not going to, and that's fine. But it's confirmed that it will have 24 megapixels with the X-Trans 3 sensor with a different, faster processor. And it's even saying shutter speeds up to 32,000th. Pretty fast. If you're really into JPEGs and the film simulations, there's going to be a new one called Eterna that also, there's rumors that it's going to be available in the XT2 and maybe XT20 or something like that. So that also might come into that with a firmware update in the future, but you probably will see that with this XH1. It's going to have a deeper ergonomic grip, and it's essentially, they're saying it's going to sit in between an XT2 grip and a GFX. So interesting, a little bit bulkier, but that's fine. I really love the ergonomics, especially of the X Pro 2. The XT2 was fine as well, but I really love the way the X Pro 2 is designed. I'll link that review down below so you can check that out. Once again, February 2018 is supposed to be the release for this guy right here, and it's supposed to be a big change for videographers, whatever that means. So that pretty much just leaves the price point of $1,900 to $2,200, and it's gonna have a top LCD panel. So I'll be very interested to see what this camera is, and trust me, I will do my best to get hands-on with that as soon as possible once that comes out, once it's fully announced and everything, because I think that's gonna sell like hotcakes, especially because Fuji users are looking for a little bit better video, as the still side is amazing for what it is. The video's been lacking, especially in my opinion, and they're looking for something better. The autofocusing obviously isn't even close to what Sony, Canon is out there on the market for that. But if they're going to put that in there, that's great. They already have 4K in the line. The other thing that they're saying is there's going to be a Fuji XF10, which it's not going to be called the X80, and it's going to have a newer sensor, and it's going to be in the first half of 2018. Just quick news in regards to that. And then on the roadmap in 2019, there's going to be the GFX 100S, which is going to basically cost as much as a Hasselblad X1D, which is like $12,000, but it will be a GFX higher resolution that will have in-body image stabilization. So expect that 2 years from now that they're saying. And the GFX-R, which is slated for mid next year as well. And it's going to be the big brother of the X Pro line, just like the GFX is. So that's a lot of stuff that we just kind of went over. And Fuji, they're going to do well with that X1H once it comes out with the in-body stabilization, and that really kind of leaves another, check mark list off of something that Fuji doesn't do, and that's really going to capture a lot of people's attention. Still in the crop market, obviously, but Panasonic, this GH5S, I actually hope it doesn't come true. I hope that this is just total BS, but if there is that point of the oversaturation, even the G9 argumentatively is already oversaturated because the G5 just came out as well. But what do you think? Let me know your opinions to all this down below. The Fuji news, the Panasonic GH5S. And by the way, all the pictures you see out there of like Casey Neistat and the others with the GH5S are not true. That's been disproved. You wouldn't see that in the video. But there is that one guy who had the GH5 who's doing some projects, but you don't see the close-up of it. I think Max Yuryev talked about that. I'll link him down below if you want to read further into this stuff and the rumors and everything that I didn't cover. So check that down below. He has a good video about it. But what are your thoughts? Panasonic GH5S? Are you excited as a GH5 user, or are you absolutely annoyed? Fuji, are you excited for the in-body image stabilization coming to the system? Interesting time towards the end of 2017 right now. 2018 might start off with a really good kick, and definitely pretty exciting.